week 9, and things are getting pretty critical here at the Heroes Global Championship, both in standings, and secondly, I'm now not talking to this guy anymore. He threw away my coffee before the broadcast. My name is Tricked, and that guy over there, it's Caldor.
I have to put that in some context. So in case you guys didn't know, we have a little table over here between the two of us, where usually we have drinks. And as we came in, it seemed like NA didn't clean up the table, so there was a lot of bottles and empty ones. And before Trick came in, I just looked at it, I was like, look at that, that's still a Coke can, that's definitely Dreads, and there's like an old Starbucks mug. So I was like, okay, this is definitely Gilly, so I walk over and throw it away. Half a second later, he comes in, like, where did my coffee go?
My ritual has been ruined. I didn't get my pre-sip before the cast, so if it's not good today, we blame him, okay? Let's get started. Let's look at the global standings for the rest of the HGC League right now. So, over in China, odd note there, E-Star Gaming lost to CE, so now no more undefeated teams, except for L5 over in Korea. They are 12-0, and they have been owning it up. Now, Europe today is exciting.
Yeah, Europe today is going to be quite a lot of fun, but as we are talking about L5, another team that we have to point out there, which has actually a bit of a sad record, is Raven. 0-13. B-Genius was, until last week, one of the teams that didn't have a single match win, but then all of a sudden, they made a bit of a role switch happen, and just look at that, they were able to take down the Ducks, so it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, been pretty crazy. Speaking about the European standing, let's go ahead and check it out now. Fnatic, Dignitas, and Team Liquid all fighting for the #1 spot. After last weekend, things definitely got shaken up.
And guys, we have some caster math on stream coming at you pretty soon, because I'm not going to go through all the motions right now, but there are some pretty crazy scenarios with Fnatic going up against Dignitas on Sunday, where even if Fnatic loses, they could still end up being in the first spot position. But there's a couple of ifs and whens, and we're going to go through all of that when the match actually happens. But it is a crazy situation in Rover right now.
Well, we will get the chance to look at the #1 team so far, Fnatic, as they'll be our next matchup, as they'll be playing today against Tricked Esport. So that's going to be a good one. And then they have to play on Sunday against Dignitas, which is where all that caster math is going to have to come to fruition, and Caldor will have to drop those knowledge bombs on you. Let's go ahead and check out the schedule for the rest of today. What do you have to watch? Later on, Synergy and Team Expert will face off. Should be a good one. Synergy still looking for their first win, besides from facing off against B-Genius, so we'll see if they can do that today. Gale Force Esports and B-Step going at it later on for North America, and to end the day, Team Freedom and Team 8.
Yeah, some really nice matches here today. Fnatic versus Tricked is really important too, because it comes down to the map score for this one. And Synergy versus Expert, also an interesting game, since Synergy has really interesting scrims right now, and also matches that they show here. A lot of teams that they face off against, even in the big three, they are showing incredible games, but then they go up in the league against someone and they look a bit more shaky, maybe nerfs playing a bit of a role there. But as we're talking about Fnatic, a lot of you might just look at this right now and saying, okay, Fnatic is supposed to walk away with a victory here. But as we are getting down to the last few games of the season, this is actually a situation in which Fnatic needs to try and edge out another 3-0 victory. This is going to be incredibly important if they end up losing against Dignitas, that they get as many 3-0s as possible. Because if you guys are not familiar with our ranking system, the first thing we want to look at is the match score. Then we're going to the head-to-head, also accounting, of course, for the first part of our season. And if those are tied as well, then we go at the number of 3-0 victories that a team was able to accumulate. If those are even, we look at the 3-1s just to judge how dominant team has been throughout the season. So with Dignitas and Fnatic, it could really come down to those numbers, and that's why Fnatic has to try and make sure that they're not dropping a single map today, ideally against Tricked. Tricked, of course, on the other hand, they are playing both Fnatic and Dignitas, and they have very different plans here.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult day. And on top of that, we're in the Genji patch right now. No Genji, but all the updates of builds, that you currently play at home will be played today here in the HGC. So exciting stuff. Let's figure out what our teams here, Tricked and Fnatic, thinks about the matchup upcoming.
The Fnatic game is going to be a tough one. They're looking incredibly solid in their games so far. And they're one of the strongest contestants for the first spot in the league. Therefore, I think we'll go into a game with any nerves at all, and we'll just try and put out a lucky victory against them.
I think playing versus Tricked is just a placeholder. I think we're a much stronger team than them. Obviously, Dignitas is the bigger matchup coming into this weekend, so we prepared more specific things for Dignitas. I think facing Tricked will just play standard and try to get us through the series with a win, and then go harder on Dignitas on Sunday.
Wow. Harsh words there from Schwimpy. Tricked Esports as just a placeholder, which is kind of interesting. The confidence that is from Fnatic right now is just oozing from every single player. They feel like they've really hit a stride.
Yeah, but they also have to show that confidence. As we said, it really comes down to the number of games that you win with a 3-0 or 3-1. So they have to make sure that their approach is really confident. And they have a lot of players on their team as well as, for example, Quacknick's the captain that will always keep them down to earth, even if they are saying, hey, we should win this quite easily. He's going to be the one who says, guys, take this serious. This is not something to take lightly. If we lose a few maps here, this could snowball against us. So focus, everybody. This is the first step. And after that, we are thinking about Dignitas.
Well, we'll see what the other players are thinking right now. On Twitter, they have been popping off as of late, really moving towards the social media. Quacknick's tomorrow at 18 CET, we'll be playing Tricked Esport in the HGC. And on Sunday, we play Dignitas. We are very hungry for that #1 win. Big weekend for Fnatic.
Yeah, and also Schwimpy talking quite a bit about how important it is for them to qualify for Sweden directly. It's really one of the goals for them, and it adds some extra pressure. Since last year, they didn't qualify to play DreamHack, and they were incredibly disappointed. But as you can see here, Smexy as well talking a bit about the final couple of games that they have in the HGC. And as he says, they need to make every single one of them count because every win matters at this point.
That's why it's such a cool system. As we get to the last couple of weeks, every single match is important, even for the bottom two and the top two.
Yeah.
Alex Aproji, hey fam! We just want to say that I will beat Fnatic Quack tomorrow in HGC easy and in sub games on Monday, which is really cool. Both these guys have been streaming as of late. Their subs now will have a 4-on-4 off with both Quacknicks and the wonderful Alex Aproji playing in those matches, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the players have actually been scramming out hours on Twitch as well. We've seen Dignitas stream. Snitch, for example, streams quite regularly now too, but as we said, Alex and also Quacknicks, of course, going head-to-head on Monday there, so make sure that you tune in for that too. You can find, of course, both of them on Twitch, and most of the players have been streaming a lot. Team Liquid, for example, comes to mind as well. We didn't see them in the last few months, but right now they're actually trying to just show also to their fans and viewers a little bit more personal streaming on the side, so that's pretty cool.
Watched Hasu Labs the other day. It was a lot of fun to watch him play the Vikings
was sad,
from
though.
the first point. Yeah, he had a bad weekend. But let's go ahead and figure out the bat round for game #1 in this best-of-5 series with Fnatic and Tricked going at it. And oh boy, we are kicking off hardcore here with Warhead Junction. This happened last weekend against Team Liquid. Fnatic went to this battleground.
Yeah, we had a pretty fantastic game on Warhead Junction with 9 nukes in the possession of the two teams at some point, which made for an absolute epic fight at the bot lane. I think it lasted nearly 3 minutes with nukes going off everywhere. It was pretty cool to see. So I would not mind having another game on that level.
Yeah, that level, that was Vikings versus basically 4 globals, right? I believe we had Falstad, Dahaka, we had the Hunt as well. Just maximum engagement from Fnatic, which they excel at. They're so great at pulling off those globals. So Tricked Esport will have to make sure to keep that within check.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit jealous when I see that. I would love myself one of these global abilities whenever I'm facing LA traffic. But we're not getting that luxury. But let's see what exactly we have popping off here in our draft. We've talked about globals. It is a big map. They gain the extra value here because of those huge distances and the size of the map itself. So Tricked starting things off with an easy ban on Falstad. Yeah,
Paul's been to out. So will the Vikings here, as Tricked Esport will not be able to play that hero. Dahaka being picked up right away, so they are grabbing the globals, making sure to prioritize that. Fnatic on the other side here can now start to think about what they would like to get. They are moving into full engage and Abathur.
And as you can see right at the start, the team's already figured out how they would approach this. Of course, they've known about the first map already for quite some time, so they could put some thought into what would be happening here. They went through a few scenarios, and this is where the draft usually starts to slow down a bit when we're talking about the first map, just because this is where the teams have to start adapting. But as we already mentioned, this is the Cassia patch right now. Sorry, it is the Genji patch, but with Cassia being allowed.
Yes.
And therefore, we could see those heroes coming into play that have been changed since then. But for now, we're seeing old friends for both of these teams. The battle for the global, since the map is really huge. Greymane as an attack damage dealer, and then of course Arthur's for Tricked, always a staple.
Yeah, so everything looking pretty standard too with the meta that we've seen in the past here, but there are some heroes to start thinking about. Lily, in particular, is actually a hero that can be played in double support now. Her damage has been buffed on the E.
Look at that
pretty
grid.
outstanding.
Look at that
double
grid.
water dragon. Let's go. It's actually pretty insane. To the point where in Hero League, we're starting to see Lily banned out pretty often, and she can be that crucial in a team fight. So we'll see those maybe later on the day. Also, Uther, the new rework has been put in.
And just watch Trick a little bit, how over the next few days and weeks he might get completely annoyed with Lily, a hero that has been advocating for so long, just because she's becoming a little bit more mainstream in double support compositions.
That's how it works though, man. Like I find a hero and I'm like, this hero is legit, and then they get buffed slightly and everyone starts playing them and I feel like kind of jealous. I'm like, why are you playing that hero? That's my hero. I bought that hero.
I played that hero before. It was cool.
And then it's like, well, now I can't touch him, and you have to go find something else, and it just starts the whole process all over again. My golly, though.
Yeah.
Zeratul and then Brightwing.
Okay. This is one of the most annoying compositions to face if you are on a solo lane in any situation, because what's happening is Zeratul sneaks behind a target, Abathur with the symbiote goes onto Zeratul, and Brightwing simply ports in, and all of a sudden you make it out of nowhere a 3 versus 1 situation. So it's actually very rough to go up against that. But also, what you need to do when you're running this composition, one of the idea behind it is really to get kills in the early game. It's not a one-trick pony composition where if you don't make it happen, you lose straight out. But normally you try to establish a lead in the early stages of the game with all that mobility that you have on these heroes. Yeah,
the idea is you put so much aggression on the opposing team that they naturally start playing more reserved in their positioning, and then you just take the battleground and start running with it in terms of nukes and all that fun stuff. It becomes a moment where it's like, gosh, do I ever step out? And the moment you're doubting yourself, that's where Fnatic just takes advantage of somewhere else in the battleground. So it is a very hyper-aggressive start here. And we're waiting for our 5th pick. We have Gul'dan, Arthas, Greymane, and Dahaka, and then Ariel. And Ariel has been climbing the ranks like crazy. She's at a point now where she's a great solo support.
Yeah, she's actually in a really good spot. She's oftentimes part of a double support composition as well, but as you said, in the solo support setup, she's also quite strong. It comes down to the map oftentimes. We see her especially on Tomb of the Spider Queen and also Infernal Shrines gaining extra value thanks to the Detainment Strike into the walls. But Fnatic here with a very aggressive composition, that's something that you can already see. We've been talking about the early game pressure against especially solo laners, but at the same time, the team fights are also going to be very much focused on getting kills fast. So they don't really have a ton of wave clear that they're running here. They're not looking at manipulating the map in any way. This is really them just trying to get good engagements, good fights. But they still need a bit of range damage in this setup.
Yeah, hoping to be able to deal with that Arthas in the poke there. Zeratul will have to be on point with his flanks, assuming it's going to be Wubby on that Zeratul. He plays this pretty strong one. Also to note, Varian in this composition becomes pretty strong on the early stages. When he gets a slow in, it's actually really easy to come in for a gank. They
look for a hero for Quacknix at this point, and we could see a Vala, for example, and they go instead for the Lunara option. Okay, so that was probably the 2 that they were talking about at this point. We all know that Quacknix is very strong on his Greymane. He loves to play Vala. He oftentimes plays the Falstad banned out, Greymane taken away. So the option was for him to go into Vala or for an alternative in Lunara as one of the heroes that he has in his arsenal too. So that was definitely an option. I think they could have maybe shifted things around a little bit and go into a mage, but then it would be very light. Normally Shrimpy plays the mages. So in that setup, Quacknix could play it. He has played quite a bit of Liming in the past, but he's way more comfortable on heroes that lean more towards the auto attacks, and that's what we're seeing reflected in the draft now.
What I also like about it, too, is naturally the Abathur, Zeratul, Brightwing that you're talking about, the hyper-aggression we're going to see in the early game. It naturally carries the early game, so Lunara can get to that late stage where she starts to get those power spikes at 16 in particular. So it's a really good way for them to open up fights.
The 13 as well. The unfair advantage actually works for them, especially with Abathur coming in, so he will hit that slow on 16 later. We have the Varian in with the slows as well, so Lunara can start capitalizing on that too. Needs to be a bit careful of that Greymane, of course. That's one of the things where they need to be a bit cautious, but this is more down to Smexy then, who has to be ready with that polymorph whenever Greymane starts to engage.
On the other side, you have Tricked Esport, who has a more traditional team comp. You have the Arthas engage, you have the Dahaka flank with the rotation in with the drag, the Greymane to burst out, you have the Horrify. They have a strong lineup in particular. Fnatic, we're looking at them and talking about them a lot because their composition is probably a little bit harder to pull off. It requires more teamwork and more coordination and aggressive pokes in the early game. So it's going to be a fun tug of war to watch here as we head into Warhead Junction.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one. And as we said before, Fnatic needs to be aggressive. This is what they're trying to do here. This is not a composition that you want to just like draw out the game. We see that sometimes with Nazeebo, for example. If you have any kind of, let's go a bit crazy here, Asmodean composition, for example, too, you want to head into the late game. With this one, they are still fine fighting the team fights, but they want to put on the pressure from the get-go.
Well, let's get it figured out here. Game number 1, Warhead Junction. Can Fnatic put on the pressure, or will Tricked Esports overcome them? Let's figure it out here. The best of 5 now begins.
Game number 1 on Warhead Junction. We have Fnatic going up against Tricked Esports, and all the way to the left, the Swedish boy band with Quacknix on Lunara. Breeze on Varian, Wooby as expected on Zeratul. We have Schwimpy playing the Slugger, he's on Abathur, and Brightwing played by Smexy.
To the right, in the red, Nape will be on the Ariel, Eternal playing Greymane, Alex the Progi on Arthas, Crosby on Gul'dan, and Rimmer on Dehaka.
Rema on the Dehaka here now once again, and yeah, I'm excited for this one. As we said before, for Fnatic there's a lot on the line. They have, of course, a very tough battle on Sunday against Dignitas, but they can already make a step into the right direction with taking down Tricked without dropping a map. That would be huge for them, but Tricked was very confident when they were talking about this series here today, so they want to take down Fnatic. This is not only about survival for them, this is honestly for them to just say, we can take on the top 3.
Brightwing grabbing Hyper Shift at level 1. Every time that she kills a teammate, her cooldown on her phase shift is reduced by 2 seconds, so that can be amplified by being near teammates, so watch out for that, as it should be pretty beneficial as she continues to beat with that Zeratul. And we actually have the greater cleave here, or that's Purple Blade actually, on the Zeratul, so watch out for these flanks. Crosby in particular is going to have a rough time if he ever oversteps.
Yeah, and with that rough time, this is one of the things where you need to be extremely cautious on the side of Trick who you put on the solo lane. Because of the aggression that we've been talking about, there's so much potential where you can really pressure someone quite easily. That's one of the reasons why Gul'dan should never be in a position where he has to hold a lane by himself. That's where Greymane is currently coming in, but we'll be already looking for that potential engage. And just look how cautious Eternal is. Eternal is on a lane where he only sees Abathur. There's no one else on the lane, and he sits on Greymane the entire time in the back and does not even engage into the middle of the map, because he knows fully well how big that threat of Fnatic against the solo laners is.
Washed and Tricked here. Abathur Mine set up on the right side too, just to make sure that if anyone does rotate down to help out Trick, they can catch him. Or of course, if anyone does leave that lane, they know they can get their 30v2. And overall, Tricked Esport is handling this potential early aggressive pressure relatively well. I'm watching the other hat. Okay, here we go. We're probably being dived in. Here comes a Brightwing. We're going to have a Polymorph right away. Should be on Ariel. There it is. Wubby going in, low on health. We do have one pick, but the members of Tricked, 2 of them, do escape.
Yeah, also Dehaka is now alone at this top lane, so that's where we need to see an immediate shift. We will see Fnatic trying to get the experience thanks to, or we should see it thanks to Abathur going in with the Symbiote, but that aggression is exactly what we said about. You have immediately Abathur and Brightwing moving in with the rest of the team, and that's what's currently happening here in the middle now too. So Fnatic zoning out Tricked very nicely.
Yeah, and Tricked doing a really good job here of actually handling this nuke on the bottom. We're going to have Greymane grab the one in the middle, as Fnatic had to bring 4 members down just to contest that nuke. So overall, great crisis management by Tricked Esport, and they're slightly ahead in experience because of Dehaka at the top.
Yeah, first nuke coming in. Eternal finds himself for a second alone, and Wooby sees an opportunity, but Crosby is ready. Yeah, starting to crash aggressively through the mid lane and down to the bottom of the map. Fnatic is attempting to do the same thing.
Here comes Breeze on the right side, looking at Eternal. Again, without the Abathur hat, you're not going to see too much pressure from Wubby, especially if he's down a man in numbers at 3v2. Just Ariel being too great with detainment strikes and those heals make it very difficult to ever secure a kill, so he doesn't move in. And we're holding on now for our teams, but overall, the aggression I expected from Fnatic has just not been given an opportunity.
Yeah, Tricked is playing really nicely around this, and we still have Bambi at the bot lane attempting to poke away against Arthas and now Gul'dan, but of course, she needs to be quite careful at this point. But once again, we have the towers very, very low, so that should be a bit of easy experience for Fnatic to pick up later. But Wooby is already working on the map itself, trying to manipulate it enough to get a few mercenary camps, the extra pressure onto the lanes. This is still early stages, and as long as Breeze doesn't move in with the Varian, they're safe, but he's already setting up for another flank.
Question for you, what do you think about Peekaboo here over potentially Unstable Anomaly? It's a little bit more damage for those kills.
In general, I actually like if you go for a bit more damage here, but I think with the idea that they have of just pushing a target down quite fast, it's fine to go for the Peekaboo. It's just the vision overall that you have gives you so much utility. I like vision talents quite a lot, but you could have gone for the damage option here, of course, as well.
All right, well, the first 4 of the game is actually taken out by Tricked Esport in the middle as they move in aggressively. The rotations have been on point.
I'm not gonna lie, Tricked is looking good here. They are looking very good. They might not have gotten a kill yet, but overall, they shut down all the early game aggression that Fnatic wanted to push onto them. So this is still looking strong. Fnatic, on the other hand, they have with level 10 also a very nice poke that they can use on the side of Quacknix. And he has been playing really well on his Lunara so far, making sure that his positioning is on top. But now we have those movements with 4 heroes onto a single lane, and Fnatic has to react to those, and it's a bit tricky when you don't have the copy on Abathur available to you yet.
Level 10s, I feel like, it's pretty scary for both teams, actually. Hang on, we have a big gank coming here on the right side. Here comes Brightwing, gonna face shift, and the immediate engage on Crosby. The polymorph comes out a little bit too late, in my opinion, here. And Crosby does live. Breeze low on health. He's getting poked down here, and that's gonna be a pick on Breeze.
Fantastic body blocking by Alex. Is, of course, quite easy for him to pull that off with the slow effect on Arthur's with the Frozen Tempest, but that was really well done. It looked for a moment as if if Varian would actually be able to move away from this, but then thanks to the body blocks, he was kept in the fight long enough for Trick to capitalize on it. So that's the kill right there. The big problem actually in this situation was that when they started to engage, we had full hope on Oriel, so she could get a full heal onto onto Gul'dan, and therefore he just did not die.
Also, he was able to use Drain Life for a long period of time before the polymorph came in, just a little bit late there. And those small things add up. Tricked Esport able to turn that around. They now have a pretty large lead as we move into level 10. And here's why I'm afraid of the level 10 here for Tricked Esport. Horrify, Army of the Dead. How are you going to kill Arthas if you don't get to that Gul'dan? Dahaka rotate in at any point. Greymane by himself, cocktail build, and he could potentially even go for Cursed Bullet to help out with the start. Although I wouldn't mind to go for the throat there. It's actually really solid against Zeratul.
I actually think you're completely right, because the problem still is that Fnatic is falling behind, and they're falling behind fast. They were supposed to be aggressive in the early game. Trick played very well around this, played extremely safe to a fault, and now Fnatic finds themselves in trouble. Trick tries to use the level 10 to go for the boss. Fnatic contesting a bit, trying to poke here, going in for the Oriel. Really well done. Horrify is already out. We saw the Aegis used to save Knappe. That's 2 cooldowns out already. Alex zoning as much as he can. But Fnatic doing a fantastic job considering that they don't have heroic abilities yet.
Yeah, especially with Abathur the entire time here working towards 10. If Ultimate Evolution comes online in the middle of this boss, Fnatic can move in and steal it. Tricked Esports realizing this, pulls back and stops fighting for the boss overall. And Fnatic with their great harassment, Webby in particular with the great aggression on Nafe because he got hit by a Baneling, forced a scenario where Tricked Esport had to retreat.
Let's not forget that Dahaka during all of this has actually pushed the top lane in quite significantly. So we still have that leading experience for Trick, but still not getting the boss was a bit of a push against Tricked Esports. Fnatic did really well in this situation. So now they have the tools available to them. We have, especially with the taunt, a massive advantage going in against someone like Gul'dan. And if you snipe Gul'dan with a good angle, of course, he can't use the Horrify either. Alex in trouble. Fantastic Void Prison in the back. Dahaka comes in, but the kill is already secured. Alex is down, and here's the copy.
Gotta agree with that beautiful Void Prison coming on the right side, keeping Gul'dan away. They also came in for the aggression, knowing that Horrify was used by the boss. They had a 25-second window to use an aggressive play, and they used it to take out Arthas and also get a pick and then get away from the retreat.
I would actually have liked them to be a little bit more aggressive on the back of this. It looked like they could go in for a second kill, and nearly a confirmation for a second kill against Greymane by Zeratul, by the Zeratul copy by Schwimpy. So that was a chance they had, but they did not want to overextend here. The kill was at least for now enough. Still 2 nukes against 1 in favor of Trick, so they're waiting for an opportunity to deploy both of them.
Where they'll get the opportunity to use those nukes? That is the question. If you want to be able to get a boss, you can push with it, push the bottom lane, get aggressive, but you need an opening at some point. And if you overextend to use a nuke, that's where the composition of Fnatic really works together. You have the Zeratul to go in for the flank, and of course, Emerald Wind, or the Brightwing phase shift to come in for a polymorph, always strong.
Also on a side note, we have Mule taken on Abathur on 7, so that is definitely going to help to keep those lanes intact a bit. And also it helps you if at some point your opponent makes a play for the core, so that you can just make sure you repair that. That is definitely an advantage for them. Abathur can already use that right now, but as we see, Trick, they are committing heavily to the structure kills because they know, of course, about the talent choice for Abathur. So they know from the get-go, if we do not confirm the destruction of a structure, Abathur is going to repair that soon after.
Yep, that's a really good point. Just fully commit to it. Don't want to deal with that melee pressure if you can. That's one of the ways to nullify it. Just make sure you secure a fort kill. And with 2 nukes, it's definitely very possible. We have 4 people on the bottom right. Brightwing showed on the top there, as well as Abathur. So Tricked Esport is in a spot where they're sharking around trying to fight their engagements. They see Lennar in the middle, but with that leaping strike, Blacknix does retreat with the aid of Wubby.
Yeah, Wooby is still there. They're all just poking. They're waiting for a chance where they can jump in. And Brightwing is now to the top with Abathur, so that's experience soaked. That's the entire idea. They, of course, have those globals available to jump into these fights. But now that we have 13, it also helps especially Varian a lot. That's additional survivability for him as a hero. And Fnatic is going to try and make good use of that. Wooby is spotting the approach on the boss. Priest moving in. They're aiming for Crosby again. And immediately Tricked is trying to go straight for Crosby to save him. But here comes the double ult. Horrify has been used. Fnatic still alive. The copy about to fall. But they're still in position. And once again, Tricked has not been able to take the boss.
Yeah, I like Fnatic's approach there too. They moved in, forced the Aegis, and then retreated out. Wubby on the back right uses Void Prison. We're going to have a low health Ariel. Can the Q hit? It does. Beautiful Void Prison. Disengage, and the Q coming out from Smexy to get the kill on Ariel. Great timing and great teamwork from Fnatic.
I'm really liking the way that they're structuring these fights, but I also love how Tricked reacted right away when they saw that Zeratul was hanging around trying to protect Gul'dan because they know it's a priority target. In this case, though, it is Greymane who falls, and Fnatic is starting to pick up the momentum, and you cannot run from this comp.
Nope, especially with that leaping strike. Crosby gets slowed down. Alex Aproji low on health. He will save a nuke for his team, but with 3 members down, 1 just now spawning, Fnatic has full control of the battleground, especially with Abler on the top lane. They move straight towards the boss.
Yeah, they go for the boss, and the Haka hasn't really had too much of an impact in these fights yet. We are still waiting for good Tongs, but he is mostly concerned about getting experience for his team, but they are starting to fall behind. Fnatic has taken a severe lead with a 5 versus 1 kill count, and them going for boss is something that Trick just simply can't stop.
This is one of the things about picking Lenara that made it so brilliant in the draft. When Dahak comes in for the rotation, it's actually relatively hard to get a flank properly on Lenara, especially when she has Sleeping Strike. And it's hard for you to walk up and actually get the drag on her because of her inherent movement speed available. So Dahaka didn't rotate in on those fights as there was no major spot for him to come in. It was actually better just to push the top lane and get experience and forfeit members in the bottom.
Yeah, getting a hold of Bambi in these fights is definitely super annoying.
What target do you go for? You have Brightwing with Blink Kill, you have Zeratul who's mobile as heck, and then you have Lenara bounces around. Varian is the only one that you can maybe guarantee a drag on.
I mean, you hope basically that you go and that you get Zeratul or Lenara with a flank, or that they are a little bit too far out in one of those team fights. That's your best chance. But Fnatic with the 16 talent, they are really pressuring the advantage now. And once again, we have with the unfair, they actually do not have unfair advantage on 13, instead the spell shield. Good choice on the side of Quacknix, not going for the damage here, but saying against Greymane and Gul'dan, I need more safety. So greater spell shield chosen for survivability. Here comes the Void Prison again. They're trying to zone Alex away from it, pushing him way back, but he saves himself. Fnatic does not get the kill. Good heals from Gnaffe as he saves Crosby. Shrimpy with the copy on Abathur is still in, but that distracted Trick long enough so that they could finally drop the keep, and they even secure the kill against Gul'dan.
Yeah, we'll be rotating in there. We missed it on screen, but Dahaka came in for a flank, and 3 members turned around and focused him down for Fnatic. So Dahaka getting burned down definitely hurt Trick in their defense there. This is a big push here from Fnatic, and they're hoping to end the game. Alex Aproji low on health. Eternal falls. Alex finally gets back home base, but the core is falling down to 60%, 50%. Fnatic looking to get their first victory.
Merciless move by Fnatic. They go in for the kill and they take it. Fnatic with the first win in the best-of-5 series against Tricked Esports.
Yeah, there was really just a moment where it all turned around, and it felt like that boss call that was going to happen down the bottom right. That's where Fnatic found the momentum. They got the poke in. They didn't get a boss, but they denied a boss. They were able to get level 10, and an Abathur and Lenara. As they moved to 13 to 16, they just become really powerful tools. The engagements are on point, and Fnatic shows why they're one of the best in the league.
It was really an annoying spot there for Trick to be in. At first, they did great. In the early game, Fnatic had a huge amount of trouble to get this composition going, and then later on in the team fights, they picked up momentum, as Trick was mostly concerned about keeping their own heroes alive, and that never really worked out, because Abathur together with Varian, together with Zeratul, the copy afterwards was just too strong for them to deal with, even with the Aegis and everything else that we saw them throw out. I also find that Dahaka, he should have tried to maybe put him a little bit more in a spot in these team fights. Oftentimes he was attempting to get an experienced lead, but after they started losing the team fights, they lost structures, they lost experience, and from there on it was just a snowball.
Yeah, it was really hard for Dahaka to go in for rotations. Maybe an aggressive rotation at some point would have been good instead of the reactive ones that we saw. When you're reacting to a Zeratul and a Lenara, at that point, you're already losing the fight. They're burning you down with poison. You're getting outflanked constantly by the Zeratul, and then he always has the tool of Void Prison, which we saw multiple times, to wind up securing the fight for that first to second punch that happened. So it's really a big moment. I feel bad for David. He just hit his head there on the camera. We're going to be right back, guys, after this commercial break for game number 2.